All right, guys, so what I'm noticing is that a lot of you guys are doing a great job with multiplying fractions times fractions and getting the original answer, but then you're kind of struggling to put it in simplest form. And that is something I know we covered, and I know we covered it well, but I want to make sure that you remember how to do it. So let's just say, for example, that you get your answer and you get an answer of, say, 4/12. And that's your answer, but we always want to ask ourselves, is this the best way to say that answer? Well, if it's an improper fraction, we can't leave it that way. This is not an improper fraction, so that's not a big deal. And also, we need to make sure that this is the simplest form of this fraction, because when we hand an answer to somebody else, we want it to be in simplest form. We don't want to change the meaning of the fraction, but just put those numbers in a simpler, smaller way. To do that, we remember everything is simple. Everything is simple when we draw an F. Now, we know we're in simplest form when we can say 1 and done. Either the numerator is a 1, the numerator and denominator are 1 apart. Neither of those is true here. And so if we can't see 1 and done with our eyeballs, we need to do an F to see if maybe the greatest common factor is a 1, or if it's not, we can put it in a simpler form. So I'm going to take the 4 and I'm going to take the 12. And we're looking for the greatest common factor of 4 and 12. And if there's something we can use to hammer it down, we will. So I'm going to list the factors of 4, 1 and 4, because 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 2. So these are all the numbers that can hammer down that 4 to a smaller number, but we want to make sure that we can watudamadud and also do that to the 12. So I'm going to look for the greatest common factor that will also work for 12. So I'm going to ask myself, is 4 times anything 12? And it is. So I have found the hammer that I'm going to use. I'm going to pull that out to the side, and I'm going to use that hammer to first hammer down the 4, because I know that 4 times 1 is 4. And now I'm going to use that same hammer of a 4, and I'm going to hammer down the 12. 4 times 3 is 12. So we just changed 4/12, and we're changing it to an equivalent fraction that means the same thing, but the numbers are smaller and therefore easier to understand. 1/3. Now, to know if we're done, we have to be able to say 1 and done. And I can see that numerator is a 1, so we are done. Let's go ahead and try another one. Let's try, how about 5/20. So I know that I want to take that number and put it in simplest form. So I cannot see 1 and done with my eyeballs. There's no numerator of a 1. They're not 1 apart. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my F, and I'm going to see if I can't hammer this down. I'm going to list my factors of 5, 1, and 5. And I know 5 is a prime number. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, which means there are no other factors inside. So these are my factors of 5. I'm going to see if any of them will also work for the 20. So I'm going to ask myself, is 5 times anything 20? Well, yes, it is. So I'm going to pull that 5 out, and I know I can use it for both the 5 and the 20. So we can watudamadud and keep it equivalent. So I'm first going to start with the 5. I know 5 times 1 is 5. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the 20. 5 times 4 is 20. So I turned 5/20 into an equivalent fraction of 1/4. And you can see my 1 and done. That numerator is a 1. We're good as gold. Let's just try one more. Let's say we have 3/11. So I get my answer, it's 3/11. I need to decide, am I in simplest form? Well, I cannot see 1 and done with my eyeballs, so I'm going to draw the F, 3 and 11. I only need to list the factors of the smaller number just to make life easier. So I know 1 times 3. I know 3 is a prime number, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, but I can also test 2 out, and since 3 is out, I know 2 doesn't work. So now I'm going to check and see if any of these will also work for the 11, so we can watudamadud and get our simplest form. So I'm going to ask myself, is 3 times anything equal to 11? 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. I skipped right over it. So 3 is not it, which means I am 1 and done. If that greatest common factor is a 1, you know you can't change a number by dividing it by 1, so we're done. And that means 3/11 is already in simplest form. So hopefully this helps, and if it doesn't, reach out.